Okay, I've already picked this whole half here. I'm going to go after this part. Get them before the birds do. Okay, there's one bucket, 3 buckets, so 4.
Okay, so yesterday I picked all these grapes and got a very cool new gadget in the mail. I ordered this apple press here, apple grinder, apple press, and I'm gonna do a 6-gallon run of wine from all these grapes that I picked from our wine arbor here. There's my wine press, and on top that's the grinder. I'm going to see how this thing works here soon. And there's 3 buckets full of grapes there, a 4th there. That should be enough. If not, I got more grapes. Okay, first of all, I've got to wash all these things. So here goes. Soak them a bit in here, rinse them out, and straight into the grinder. These last few days it's been raining like crazy, so even when I picked these, they've been rinsed really clean by the rain. But nevertheless, you know, any dust or whatever that may still be on them, I want to get it off. So these have soaked for a bit. Let's stick them in here. And one more rinse. Okay, and they go. Now let's give this thing a crank, see how it works. Wow, that is cool. That is making quick work of these grapes. Okay, here comes batch number 2, and as you can see, I haven't pressed anything yet, and juice is already coming out. So just by smashing these things up, a lot of juice just runs out on its own. Let's get this thing going. Yeah, now that is really cool. A couple days ago I did a 10-liter batch all by hand, and it took me all day long. But this, quick work. This is so cool. Yeah, you can see down here, look at this. There, that's just the weight of the grapes. I'm halfway through the 2nd bucket, haven't pressed anything yet, and look at how much juice has already come out. So I am going to, another one under there, and this gets emptied into my primary fermentation with an ant out of there. This gets dumped into the primary fermentation bucket. This is the end of the 2nd bucket, and I've got 4 buckets. So that means let's do this one, and then I think we'll do a press. We'll see how much is in there, but it's getting pretty full. Yeah, we'll do a press. And that means we'll get 2 presses out of this thing. That's a 4.5 gallon press down, or apple press bucket. So here goes. The last part of bucket number 2. All right, set this aside. It's heavy, man. This entire thing, the 2 combined, is well over 100 pounds. All right, let's see how this thing works. So, put these up. I'm guessing here, there's no instructions that came with it. It's pretty simple. Tighten those down. Now, this should go. Let's see. Well, as you can see, once I start putting any pressure at all, boy, the juice just comes pouring out. This thing is so easy to use. I mean, man, after just doing 2 gallons by hand the other day, doing 6 gallons now, it's going to take me less than half the time, probably less than a quarter of the time to do what I did the other day by hand. This thing is really cool. Now it is really pouring out of there as the pressure gets pretty high. Starting to feel it down the tank. It's really putting the squeeze on this. And you know what I just realized? This should have all gone in underneath. I should have wrapped that all in. It's now squeezing over the edges. Not to worry. Yeah, let me fix that. That's working better. Nothing's coming out of the edges anymore. Man, this puts a lot of pressure on those grapes. I like this design. The ones I've seen other people use online, they have to put all kinds of wood blocks and stuff in there. This, you just swing it on, swing it off, and no wood blocks. Really, it's a really great design. Easy to use. Left with some dried out grape skins. I'll show you what I'm going to do with these. Alright, this is where I raise my rabbits, so got a composter here for all the rabbit manure. And go ahead and compost all these grape skins and seeds too. Good. Perfect fertilizer for the waste. Alright, this is the second pressing, the last of the grapes that I picked. Might not be enough. I'm going to taste this fresh juice. Oh, that's really nice. So, our third and final press. Put that in there the right way this time. So this is as full as we want it. We've actually got to add some more stuff in here, which I'll get to later. We'll do that in the house. So press the rest of this out. That'll be just nice fresh juice to drink, but this is our wine. Here we have our wine. Let's take a sugar reading with this hygrometer. Figure out where we are with the potential alcohol. And it's reading exactly what it read the other day when I did my hand batch. It reads 1.052, which equates to roughly 7% alcohol. As you know, wine should be more like 12-14%, so we're going to have to cheat. We're going to have to add some sugar. Obviously, being these were very ripe grapes, they obviously are not wine grapes. They're probably just table grapes or whatever, so they just don't have the sugar content that wine grapes do. That's fine. We'll add sugar and we'll come up with the right results anyway. Okay, I've measured out 4.5 kilograms of sugar, 2 1/4 liters of water. The right ratio. Let's fire this up. Okay, let this sugar solution cool down. So, let's add it. Okay, with the sugar added, let's get a new reading here. And this time it is 1.11, which will give us 14.5%, so that's perfect for wine. Next, I'm adding sulfites. 6 Campton tablets, that's 1 tablet per gallon. I crush these up, dump them in, and what that's going to do is going to kill off any bacteria, wild yeasts, anything that might give it an off flavor. And then tomorrow, after this stuff disappears on its own after 24 hours, we'll put in the wine yeast. That's then all that should be alive in here. Should be perfect. Powder, and it goes. Now, because we're not going to be aging this in an oak barrel, I'm going to put some of these wood chips for flavoring that came from the same company that sent all these other ingredients to put in here, the yeast and the Campton tablets, that kind of stuff. So let's put about half of those in. And let's check the pH, which should be in the high 3s ideally. If not, I do have acid I could add to it. But like I said, I did this a couple days ago and everything was perfect. So let's see, in it goes. And it looks like it's right around 4. So actually, I'm going to put in a little bit of acid to bring it down just a bit. This is tartaric acid blend, and I'm going to stick 6 teaspoons of this stuff in here. 1, that's roughly 6. Give it a good stir. Oh yeah, definitely darker this time. Looks between 3 and 4. So that's where we want it. Perfect. Finally, we're going to put in Pectinase, Pectic enzyme. This is an enzyme that eats up fruit, so it will help us to dissolve any little particles, cells, whatever, of the grapes that are in there. You can see it's still quite cloudy. That's because of the particles. This will help to dissolve those, clear it up faster. So I'll do 4.5 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.5 teaspoons, and give it a good stir. Now the only other thing that I haven't added here is the tannins. I'm kind of thinking that there's enough in the grapes. I don't need to add tannins. Okay, that does it for day 1. This needs to sit now for 24 hours so that the Campton tablets, the sulfites, can do their job and dissipate out of the solution. And then we can add our yeast. So see you tomorrow afternoon around 2:30 p.m. Okay, it's been 24 hours, so it is time for the next simple, very important step, adding our yeast. Using wine yeast, 5 grams will do it. Some people like to make a yeast starter. I think it's just a waste of time. It's much easier to just take the yeast and sprinkle it all over the top and not stir it. By tomorrow this time it's going to be going very active. And I can show you now because I did this one. This is that 10 liter, 2 gallons batch I did by hand the other day, it's been fermenting for 3 days, and it's going very, very well. Bubbling away. You can also see this has gone pretty clear now. There's a lot of stuff floated to the top, a lot of stuff on the bottom, but you can see the color here, it's clear yellow, whereas this one's all murky. That's because the yeast is bubbling away in there, quite active. So tomorrow afternoon, this one's going to look like that too. And keep these back here in this little cubby underneath the stairs. The summers in Beijing are quite hot and humid. It's August 21st today, still pretty hot. Finally starting to cool down, but I maintain this about 25 degrees day and night right here. Fahrenheit, that's 77. I'd like it to be a little cooler, but it's not possible. With this, I put on tight and just back it off a bit, the CO2 to be able to escape as the fermentation progresses. We'll wait about 10 days, and then next step. It's been only 2 hours since I added the yeast. Let's just take a look. Oh yeah, it's definitely started. It's all bubbling on the surface. It's gonna take a day before that gets all through the solution, but it's off to a good start. It has been 13 days, and it's time to transfer the wine from the primary fermentation vessel into this 6-gallon glass carboy, which is what we'll call secondary fermentation. Primary fermentation, that was very active, lots of bubbling, but that's now subsided. And let's take a look. Yeah, it's still bubbling, but just a little bit, and it's cleared up quite a bit from what it was like. When we first made the wine, we didn't worry too much about sanitizing things because we used those 6 Campton tablets. So any bacteria that were either inside this vessel or on the stirring spoon or on the wood chips, on the grapes themselves, whatever, got killed by those sulfite and Campton tablets. But now those are gone and everything needs to be sanitized so we don't introduce any bacteria into the wine. So what I use for that is this product called Star San, and it's specifically made for making beer and wine. It's pretty simple to use. You just squeeze and it fills, as you squeeze, it fills this little 5 milliliter, squeeze again, boom, there, fills this 5 milliliter capsule at the top, unscrew, pour that into 3 liters of water, and then you have Star San ready to use. That's what I've got in this little spray bottle here. I've also rinsed out the carboy with Star San. So the next thing I want to do is check the specific gravity now that this is fermented for almost 2 weeks, 13 days. We'll sanitize this. And my hands. Okay, everything's good and coated. Put this in there and see where we're at. As you recall, when we first started, the specific gravity was 1.11. Now it is 1.03. So there's still some sugar left in there, which will get eaten up during the secondary fermentation. And if I put in too much sugar, then the yeast will die when the alcohol content gets too high, and there'll still be some sugar left, which means it'll be slightly sweet. To get the wine from here to here, very simple because my primary fermentation vessel has a spout. We use a funnel. Make sure the funnel is good and sanitized. The really convenient thing about Star San is that you don't have to rinse it off. It's meant to just be applied and used without rinsing. It doesn't affect the flavor or anything. Okay, I just put enough in there to coat the bottom, and now I'm going to add 20 grams of bentonite. Bentonite is a type of clay that I found it really helps to clarify the wine much more quickly than if you don't use it. That's what it's for. So I'm going to mix this up with hot water, add it now, and then finish filling up the glass carboy. I'm adding boiling water to this, which will completely sterilize everything here. And now, carefully have to mix it. And this takes a while. This stuff does not mix very easily. You got to stir it and get it to basically become a consistent slurry of clay. Okay, that's good enough. I'm going to add this. It's really goopy. I think it'll clog up my funnel. So let's put the funnel aside. Try and just get this directly in there. Okay. Now we can proceed to fill this thing. The wine smells very nice. So that's everything from here, and it didn't quite fill this. Well, I said I made another smaller batch, and actually one of the two 1 gallon jugs also didn't fill. So what I'm going to do is transfer some of that wine into here to make this full. This is the same stuff, the same grapes, and it's been fermenting just 1 week longer. So I'm going to just pour this in to get that full. Okay, it's full, and now it's time to install the airlock and set this thing aside for 6 months or so before we start drinking it, during which time we're going to have to transfer it a couple times from this glass carboy to a clean one to get it off the sediment. So let's get the airlock. Here's what it looks like, and this fits right in there. Let's sanitize it first, and then we need to fill this up with some of that Star San solution, and this will keep the air from the outside from getting in and oxidizing the wine or letting any bacteria or fruit flies or whatever get in, and it'll also let the CO2 out because pressure will build up in here as the yeast continues to dissolve and digest the sugar. And let's pour some in. That's enough. press that all the way down. Nice snug fit, airtight. There. Now, we'll see in a few minutes as the pressure builds up in here. This will start to bubble. It's been almost 3 weeks. I'm going to rack the wine into a new clean glass carboy, get it off all the sediment that's building up. Right now what I'm doing is running some sanitizer, that's the Star San, through my pumping system. Then I will use the same pump to transfer the wine. This pump's slow, but sure convenient. And I took another specific gravity reading. We're now at 1.013. And like I said, it's been almost 3 weeks. Here's what the wine looks like now. There's the sediment on the bottom. That pink stuff is the bentonite. And there it goes. So I'll just let this go for a while. It's going to take a couple hours. Well, I got all of the wine I could before starting to pick up too much of the lees off the bottom. You see what's left down there is just a bunch of sludge. Here's what we've got now in the new carboy. And of course we lost a little bit, so I'm going to use some more of that white wine from the previous batch. This is just a week older than this one. Same stuff we used to top it off before. I'm going to do that again. And we're left with just a little bit of a taste left in the bottle. And that's full. So yeah, let's reinstall our airlock. Good and tight. So here we have it. Empty bottle, clean bottle, and this ought to clarify the next 2-3 months, and then we'll check it. We might have to rack it again or just go straight to bottling. But anyway, it's looking good and it smells really good. It's going to turn out nice. Well, it is December 18th, so it's been a full 4 months now since we made this wine, and I'm going to bottle it today. So here I've got, I need 33 wine bottles, which I've got, and siphon tube. First I'm going to go and sterilize everything and bottle this up. Okay, so I have sanitized all this, my siphon tube. Now I'm going to sanitize each bottle. Get it going. Cool. And I've put a bunch of corks in here too, so they're starting to soak and sanitize. So I'll give each bottle a few squirts. Let it drain. Another one. So I'm going to go through and sanitize all the bottles, and then we can fill them. So unfortunately my nice plunger for siphoning, getting the siphon started, it broke. So this is the way I'm going to have to do it, the old-fashioned way. Push this bottle filler with my teeth and just suck it to get it started. Once it gets going, then this bottle filler we can use to control the flow. Okay, got the first one going. Okay, first one's full. Let's do this again. Push down on that bottle filler and it releases it and fills pretty quickly. Coming up. There, we'll take it out. This displaces some of the wine, so here the level's right there, perfect. These two are full. Get another one. And this is my bottle corker. So get a cork, put it in there, and then there. Oh, that one was harder than usual, but it didn't quite go all the way in, but good enough. Yeah, corked bottle. Try another one. Usually it's much easier than that. There we go. That's how it's supposed to work. Okay, so I got 32 bottles out of that, and then the siphon doesn't work once you get down to the bottom, so I poured the rest, trying to keep as much of the sediment as I could from pouring, but still got a lot, as you can see here. What I'm going to do is go ahead and fill my last bottle. That's bottle number 33. I got 1 1/4 liters here, so no problem. I'll have a little left over. And then this is just going to have to settle out in the bottle. It'll be fine. In the future, I'm going to rack one more time just before bottling. Just do away with this issue. So there you have it. 33.5 bottles. And it smells great, it tastes great. I'll let it sit for, I don't know, a couple more weeks, Christmas time. Then we can start to drink it.
Okay, it is now time for the much awaited taste test. If I look a year older, it's because I am. Today is September 23rd, and it's been a year. It was last September 2020 that we made this one, and I set aside one from each of the 3 grape wines I made last year for a whole year, so we could do a taste test today. So let's get to it, but let me introduce first each of these wines. So this one, this is the wine in the video. I'm calling it wine 2 because it was the second one I made. And as you'll recall, I mentioned that I had already made a small batch before that. That would be this one, wine 1. And essentially the only thing different between these two is the amount of sugar I added. You can see here, this one had an initial specific gravity of 1.094 and it finished off at 0.991. So it was pretty dry. This one we put a lot of sugar in it. So it started out at 1.11 and ended out at 1.013. So it still had sugar in it when it was done. So it's sweet. This one has a similar amount of sugar as the first one, so not sweet. And the big difference here, I don't know if you can tell, well you will in a moment, the color, I did it the red wine way. In other words, I put the skins and seeds after pressing the grapes, I put those into the primary fermentation. So for about a week or so, those fermented with the juice. And what we ended up with was, they call this an orange wine if you do that with a white wine. So it actually is a little bit on the orangish, maybe a little pinkish color. But the big difference really is not so much the color, but the flavor. These turn out to be muscat grapes, and they have a rose smell flavor when you eat them. And this one has a much stronger rose flavor. So yeah, it's been a year. We started drinking these not too long after bottling them. They weren't great. After about 6 months, they were though. They were much better. So I definitely recommend if you make wine at home, wait 6 months at least. Now we're gonna find out if we wait a year. It's been a while since we've had any of these, but let's find out. So let's start with number 1. Okay. I'll go ahead and pour them all first and then taste them. So number 2, the one we did in the video. Now, note when I pop the cork on this thing, something interesting. Even though this thing had sat for weeks before we bottled and no more bubbles have been going through the airlock, it was done, right? Even though it did go through yet another fermentation after bottling, and it's like a champagne. There's a lot of air, there's a lot of bubbles in it, but not enough to blow the cork, but still, listen to this. Yeah. Yeah. You can see that there should be bubbles. I don't know, maybe not. But before, this one was very bubbly. Some of them more than others. This one looks like maybe not so much. And now this one. So there you can see that's a much darker color, yeah? Again, because the skins imparted some color to the wine. So, first one. That's really good. These have been chilled. A little bit of acid to it. Actually has a slight sweetness to it, even though I think it fermented dry. Yeah, and it's just a very nice white wine. Very nice. Okay. So here's the one we did in the video. Again, the other bottles were much more bubbly. This one, for some reason, isn't. It's sweet. It's like a dessert wine. Nice flavor. If you like sweet wine, you'd like this one. It's got a really wonderful flavor. In fact, I gotta say, after a year, the flavor is more intensified, and it's quite nice. Now this one. And this one has the most flavor of all, for sure. And again, it has that rose flavor from the skins. For some reason, if you don't let the skins ferment for a while with the wine, you just don't get much of that flavor, but this is good. So I actually just today started secondary fermentation on this year's wine, and that's the way I did it. I left the grapes in there, the grape skins and seeds, just because I think this is just a much better flavor. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way they turned out. Definitely worth doing. So, good. Give it a try.